Welcome to the Cookbook, where we invite guests on to share the ingredients of what has helped make them the successes that they are. All of it, the good, the not so good. You're not going to find anything half-baked here. And our kitchen gets messy sometimes. That's when the fun starts. So come on and join us. Okay, so hey, there are times when we all could use a little extra help and support in our lives. Whether there's something you're struggling with or just seeking connection with other people who understand what it's like to be in your situation, Inovia Behavioral Health can help. Inovia is a subscription-based organization that provides unlimited access to a wide variety of educational, experiential, and therapeutic support groups that are led by live expert facilitators. Now, you can get 20% off your membership with the discount code Cookbook20 when you subscribe. Check it out today at inoviabh.com. Inovia, feel better. Hey everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Cookbook. I'm your host, Iris Goldfeder, and Mercury is in retrograde and messing with me big time. However, for those of you that believe in it and know it, if you know, you know. And for those of you who don't, you're probably better off. I'm super excited about our guest today, Dr. Leslie Rogers. We've met quite a few times, and she's a really, really dynamic woman. She's had an amazing history, and I'm going to read her bio, and we could very well be speaking to the next Oprah. So I'm going to read her bio and bring her on. Dr. Leslie Rogers is a psychologist and owner and founder of Mental Health Talk, LLC. She completed 25 years of service with the FBI, Federal Bureau of Investigation, as an intelligence analyst and Employee Assistance Program Coordinator, EAPC, for the Counterterrorism Division, which means she's a badass. Most recently, a former psychologist with the Fayetteville VA Medical Center, FVAMC, where she specialized in treating veterans with a wide range of mental health concerns that include complex trauma histories. I think that's like such important work. Dr. Leslie Rogers is the publisher and chief editor of the Mental Health Talk magazine that officially launched on August 1st, 2022. The Mental Health Talk magazine is a well-rounded publication that seeks to bridge gaps between mental health and medical health. Its content allows readers an opportunity to understand the basis of issues surrounding mental health, medical health, and problems and solutions associated with unique populations. For example, military, law enforcement, men, children, etc. That may warrant modified services when engaged in mental health services. So not only is she a badass, she's, a philanthropist and a pretty cool all-around person. So without further ado, let's meet Dr. Leslie.
Woo!
Hey there. That was all you. That wasn't me. That was all you, except for freaking Mercury. But other than that,
Goodness. That was a great esteem booster. That built my confidence up high.
But it's
high.
It's all you. You've done all those things. So it's funny. I read everybody's bio and they're like, "Wow, thanks for saying such nice things." But that's what you've done. That's your your resume, your history. So be proud. I mean, that's some awesome stuff that you've done, especially the FBI. Okay, we have to talk about that first because that totally,
yes,
interests me and probably my audience. So
I know.
Anything
I have to tell you anything. I might have to kill you though.
Well, yeah, that's true too. Okay, so you'll have to kill I don't know how many people are listening. So tell us the stuff that you don't have to kill us over. How's that? How is it working there? What was the experience like working in the counterterrorism unit? That must have been amazing.
Yeah, it was rewarding. I didn't start off in the counterterrorism division. I started off as a secretary. I have to say this because I go back in my teen days. I remember my best friend at the time, and I used to walk past the FBI building, and I would be like, wow, one day I'm going to work there. Not knowing I really was going to work there, but graduated from high school and ended up doing some college and went into the FBI. So it was a really rewarding experience. I started out as what was it called? A fingerprint examiner. Oh my goodness, a fingerprint examiner, analyzing fingerprints. Then I moved up to a secretary, and then I moved up to investigations, and I moved up to intelligence analyst, which is where I was for much of my career. And it was a really rewarding experience. It opened up doors for me that I would not even imagine that I would have been in certain spaces. I helped to, save national security. I worked to save our national security. FBI is oh, inside of the United States, and other agencies are outside of the United States. So I, identified or worked on counterterrorism cases, and it was really rewarding. And I met a lot of wonderful people. FBI was the reason why I graduated from school and went as far as I did. I went there without a degree and came out with a doctorate degree. So I have a lot of thank you and gratitude for working with the FBI. For me, it was a really rewarding experience, and it helped me, create my path along to success.
That's amazing. And it's interesting. I don't think a lot of people know that the FBI is national and all the other organizations are not. I knew that from watching TV, but that's a whole nother story because I love all those shows. So when I hear somebody who's actually worked in it, we had another guest on, Bryn Rovito, who is the owner of the Vita Mia. That was the yacht that I got to go on when I was in Hawaii. And she was she worked with the Sergeant of Arms. So just a lot of cool stuff.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No. I'm just agreeing with you. It is pretty.
Yeah. Say something. It's got to be really cool. So let's talk about your work with the VA, because that is such important work, especially nowadays.
It is. Yeah, absolutely. So, well, I was working at the FBI and then left my job, stepped out on faith, left my weekly planned job and went to do an internship. And then I went on to the VA to do my postdoc and work there. And it was very rewarding because my background, I'm not a veteran, and I don't have military experience, and no one in my family was military. So, that was a new space for me. But once I got into that space, I quickly gravitated toward the therapy that was done there and working with this population. And let me tell you guys, veterans and active duty military, I just love working with them. It's so rewarding, and they have stories to tell. And when they tell their stories, you're like just in awe at how much they've endured and how much they do endure. And so I quickly gravitated to those services, especially trauma around that population. Became certified in trauma-based therapies and was able to do groups. And then I gravitated more towards men in the VA, where I was doing trauma groups for men, to break down these walls and barriers that men, because they don't want to come forward most of the time, and speaking about mental health. So yeah, it's really important. It's a really important population. I usually talk about unique populations, and the veteran and military populations is one of those unique populations. And that only means that you might need to do a more modified approach to therapeutic services as you would to somebody normal population. Right. So I think that the VA was one of the best. Actually, the FBI was the best career I've had, I think, but the VA was one of the best. One of the best moments of my highlights of my career. I loved it. I loved servicing the military population.
That is awesome. And so what are you doing now currently? I know about the magazine, and we'll talk about that in a minute, but are you not working with the VA anymore? Now you're doing your own thing, right?
Girl, I haven't been working since 2021. Now, you got to be the grace of God, because I have not had employment since 2021. So I said, I usually use the term stepped out on faith. I stepped out on faith and left the FBI. I had one of those, what the hell are you doing moments, right? Because that was the hardest experience of my career to leave. Then I stepped out on faith again, left the VA. and started Mental Health Talk in 2021, January of 2021, which is what I'm doing now. And much of that was from savings. So I'm back to seeing patients now. I started back at seeing patients in December, January timeframe at a private practice out here in North Carolina. Again, I do trauma work. I do psychological assessments, ADHD testing, and things of that sort. So I see patients part-time, and then I do the mental health talk on the other part. So right now, I am working diligently to meet the missions of mental health talk and trying to, birth that and grow it and allow it to be successful. We have several projects under mental health talk that we're working on. We're actually working on season 2 of the mental health talk show, which is going to be amazing. We're working on the magazine that's already, just blowing up, making its own path. And then we have like Men Suffer Too, which is my baby. Men Suffer Too campaign. Again, spreading awareness around men's mental health. And then last but not least, we have another project that we're working on, the men's retreat. So, we have quite a bit that I'm working on under mental health talk, but that's my focus right now. So no, to answer your question, and am I working in corporate anymore? No, I am doing my own thing.
Right. Awesome. So, mental health talk live. Let's talk about that a little bit. There's the website and there's the radio show and there's the magazine. Why don't we talk about that a little bit so that they can educate the audience on, what they all do.
Yeah, so mental health talk, I started that back in January of 2021. The goal was to elicit dialogue around mental health and get people to talking about it, right? Because a lot of people are resistant to talk about mental health, especially mental illness. And I tell everybody, I talk about this a lot, is that I think people are resistant to talk about mental illness, not mental health. I think we use those two words interchangeably. When you ask people, what do you think about mental health? What's the first thing that comes to mind? And people kind of shy away. Ooh, I don't want to talk about that. But what they're afraid of talking about is really mental illness, right?
Right.
Mental health is how we take care of ourselves holistically, how we wake up in the morning, how we go to work, how we're able to be effective on our jobs, how we parent, how we go to doctor's appointment, how we engage in self-care. Mental health is just holistically everything, right? But then mental illness is a component of that, which are diagnosable disorders, right? And that's what people are afraid of because there's not enough awareness, right? We don't talk about it. So that's the goal of mental health talk, is to increase awareness through dialogue around mental health and mental illness and get people to talking more about it. Listen, our nation is in a state of crisis right now around mental illnesses, and untreated mental illnesses can potentially end in critical situations, traumatic events, that we're seeing in the media right now. And, we need to start supporting people. And what better way to create safe spaces, right? Mm-hmm. So that's what Mental Health Talk magazine does. That's what the talk show does. It's a talk show similar to this platform that you have, right? That's what it's all about, is allowing people safe spaces to come on and not only talk to, spread awareness around other people, but around ourselves, because the idea is we all have been impacted by mental illness in some aspect or another, whether it's personally or vicariously. Vicariously means by looking at it happen to other people, right? Us or others. So and I think that we all come with myths, right? Those myths that are ingrained in us from child rearing, growing up, personal myths, institutionalized myths, societal myths, right? There's so many myths and stigmas out here around mental illness that we don't want to talk about it. We don't talk to it with our children, and then our children grow up not talking about it. And so, you have all these cycles, right? So that's what Mental Health Talk in the magazine is about. I'll take a picture of the magazine real quick. I have it. So the magazine is a well-rounded publication where it includes mental health discussions from a lot of different resources,
Mhm.
medical professionals, from mental health professionals, from just people that have dealt with mental health issues or mental illnesses. And it's written in such a way that it's relatable. I didn't want all that jargon in there. You can't understand it. So it's
Right.
written. If Iris is just, you and I are just sitting there talking in
Mhm.
conversational. And so when you read it, according to the publications company for Amazon, it's relatable. And it makes you just want to keep reading because it's like we're just sitting down having a conversation.
Right.
Um, and
I know I owe you an article. So,
oh, yeah, and I can't wait. So I purposely put medical professionals in there because believe it or not, a lot of medical conditions mimic mental health conditions. Like, for
mhm.
instance, I have hyperthyroidism, right? Hyperthyroidism, which causes rapid heartbeat, sweats. Yes, rapid
Same
heartbeat.
thing. So you're on like levothyroxine crap, whatever. Yeah.
That you're having a panic attack, but you may not be. So a lot of times people come to me with conditions, and I say, "Have you had a physical?" to rule out medical conditions first, because it might not be a panic attack. It might be something medically. So that's why I added medical professionals in the magazine too. So, girl, we have columns for everybody: medical, mental health, sports performance, and mental health. Remember, we just talked
Fabienne.
last night. We on Mondays, we have Mondays every Monday. We have Let's Talk Men's Mental Health on Instagram Live. So last night we were just talking about sports. Simone Biles and then Omi Osaka. Remember when they came out and about mental health? And so in the sports field, so we have a column of sports performance and mental health talking about that population.
I
Population.
gotta say, the thing with Simone Biles really pissed me off because she
Mhm.
she was clearly traumatized. She could not finish the Olympics. I mean, what does that do to a world class, athlete?
Yeah.
And you have this stuff going on that is not allowing you to finish. And rather than people saying, "Holy crap, that's horrible," they demonized her. They were like, "Oh, you're using that because you can't." I just remember watching that, going, "What the hell is wrong with people?" Like that there's like the lack of empathy for people.
Forget, I think that you get so enmeshed in these sports that you forget that these are human behind that. And so that's why I often say when I take my hat off from Dr. Rogers, I'm Leslie by the time I take my hat off. So I have to reflect about ways that I feel about certain situations too, because I'm not immune, right? So yeah, so that's what mental health talk is about. Being authentic, being our authentic selves, showing vulnerability and being
Yep.
okay with being vulnerable. Because when you show vulnerability and are able to do that, you validate and normalize experiences for others. And it's such a beautiful thing.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, when, and I go back to this a lot when, Damar Hamlin fell on the football field. Um, that was for the viewers, it was traumatizing. I remember, my wife and I were watching the game
Mhm.
and he went down and we were like, "Oh, that doesn't look good." And then we were like, "Oh crap." Like, we had no idea what was going on. I think
Yeah.
that the sportscasters had no idea how to handle, what was happening. And then after he was okay, and, people were like, he was at the Bills game when they replayed the game.
Yeah.
And, they were like, "Oh, Damar Hamlin's there." And they're like, "No, he died. It's a lie." I'm like, what is wrong with it? Like, I guess I can't wrap my brain around. It's like this lack of empathy.
Yeah.
It's this conspiratorial crap that people have to create for this drama.
But you
But
can see yeah.
this poor kid died. Like, he didn't almost die. He died, and they brought him back. And now he's been cleared to play football. Holy crap!
Yeah.
I mean, you talk about, that's like a freaking miracle. The whole thing was just like unbelievable. But when I see these things happening and I see people, not treating, famous people, athletes, whatever, as humans. It drives me crazy because at the end of the day, they get up, they go to the bathroom, they put their pants on the same way we do. It's the only difference is they make a shit ton more money than we do, and they're in the spotlight.
So we have, So we have a coach on there, Dr. Bo Whiteman. He's an elite performance coach that does this Monday thing with us. And we talked about this last night, and it's two-sided. You have, the athletes themselves, they're hurt, but this is their job, and they have this mentality where I'm letting my team down. Because the question is, when do they know when to step back? When do they know it's like too much, right? And I think it's folded. This athlete, right, have a difficult time stepping back because all these experiences go on, such as am I letting my team down if I leave? Right. I worked for athletes when I was at the university in Memphis, and the first thing an athlete would say to me is, I can't, especially the higher up you go, right, the more responsibility you have to your team. I can't step down because then I'll let my team down. But then you have another aspect, the money aspect, and the responsibility, financial responsibility, as to what's the priority. The money that's coming in, or the athlete's care, self-care, and things of that sort. So it's a tough situation to be on both sides. But I agree. I think that there should be more done to kind of assess the mental stability of athletes. Especially, I think it should be a routine thing. They should have routine workshops around mental health, so that they're not to, make them feel individualized, or make them feel like on broadcast or something. Have like regular workshops for everybody, where it's mandatory for everybody.
Right.
You won't single out people, is what I'm trying to say. You won't make them feel like.
And it's so important. So my wife works for a major steel company, and before you get hired, depending on your position, you have to go through this like full psychological profile, because you are working with steel that's like, what is it, 3,600 degrees. And if you're not stable, you could probably take somebody and throw them and they would like disintegrate before they even hit the thing. And I the focus on mental health. Okay, not that anybody would do that. I just want to throw this out there. That was just me, making, a statement that would never happen there. I have to be careful, because somebody will be like, "Oh, she just said that, that can happen." So that was just me, making a. But I think at the end of the day, what you said before was so spot on. There's mental health, and that's where we take care of ourselves, and that's our self-care and our getting a massage and getting a facial or whatever it is, going to a therapist, talking to, whatever. And then there's mental illness, and the mental illness part is the piece that people always confuse. And, ADHD, I definitely have, some form of it. So it's neurodiversive. And people don't get that. They're like, oh, you don't pay attention, whatever. And it's like, no, I hear everything. It's like somebody with ADHD, what they don't realize is that it's not that we can't focus. Sometimes we just can't stop the noise, because we see every angle of every situation. It's like, anything I do, especially with my clients, like you talk about a 360 degree, or a one, whatever it is, view of something. I see everything, and I have to really pare it down, because if I don't pare it down, I get completely overwhelmed and I feel like my brain's going to explode. So I go, okay, I see all the things. Now let's just kind of write them down.
Organization of it all. And that's what I usually refer to it as, mental disorganization and the ruminative thoughts.
Yeah.
With that.
And you have to, I have to write it down, but that's what makes me an amazing strategist, is because I can do all that. I can see all the angles and say, oh, shoot, if we do it this way, this is what's going to happen. And if we do it this way, this is what's going to happen. But if we do it this way, this will be the outcome. And that's one of the strengths. Like, who would think being neurodiversive would be a strength in a marketing agency? But, here we are. And I think that that's another thing that people, don't realize. I did a podcast, and we're going to do another one with Scott Spann. It was one of the very first ones we did, and the two of us have ADD, and it was like we're texting each other like, "Okay, squirrel, bring it in," and Kofi's like in the chat going, "Okay, squirrel, bring it in," bring it back around. But it was one of the best interviews because we're just so genuine, we're so real. That to see two people, with the same, I don't want to say affliction, but with the same,
with similar.
You know what I mean? Yeah, it was pretty. Like we were laughing about it afterwards. We were like, I can't believe we actually got through that, but So you you left all that and you became an entrepreneur. What was what made you say, I don't want to be at the FBI anymore. I don't want to do the VA thing anymore. I want to do this. Like, what made you decide to become an entrepreneur?
Absolutely. Great question. So this isn't my first rodeo as an entrepreneur. A lot of people don't know that I had a successful modeling agency called Ryan's Agency for Models, named after my son, Ryan. And that went for maybe a couple of years, and it was very successful. And but it wasn't really rewarding and wasn't really what I wanted to do. I mean, guys, let me tell you, the first year I opened up. So I think I'm a natural entrepreneur. I mean, if you give me something to do, or if I put my mind to something, I get it done and I can accomplish. My first year, I was told as a modeling agency, I was told that, it would take me up to 5 years to get in front of people. My models were modeling for New York Fashion Week, Miami Fashion Week, Ed Hardy, True Volition, New Zealand, and they were in malls and everywhere else. Excuse me. But, it just wasn't rewarding for me. I think that, working for the FBI is an agent-dominated field. So, usually when people work at the FBI, they go into a special agent, which is really what I did not want to do. I was interested in it for a quick second. But what I really wanted to do, Iris, was become a doctor. But, the fear of failure got in the way of that. I didn't think, I didn't grow up with money. I didn't think I could go to college. I didn't know what I know now, so I didn't think that my parents could even afford to send me to college. So I didn't go. I didn't go until I didn't finish college until I started working at the FBI, and so I could do my own thing financially. So I left because I'm always thinking ahead. Sometimes people, tell me I'm thinking too far ahead sometimes, because like you, my mind is all over the place, right? And I have to pull it back sometimes. But I'm a go-getter. And I knew that at some point as an intelligence analyst, I was going to cap out the pay grade because I had already worked myself up the chain, right? So I started thinking ahead, okay, what am I going to do with my future? If I cap out at the FBI financially, then what am I going to do with my future? So I decided to finish the master's degree. Then I was like, what the hell? Let me finish the doctorate degree. So then it came to a point where I had to make a decision because I had to finish my dissertation and my internship, and I couldn't do that working. So it was either stay at the FBI and put that off, and then while I'm getting older, or leave. And that was one of the most difficult decisions. Let me tell you, I had so many mentors at the FBI that I had to sit down and talk to. And people, I had people say to me, Leslie, this is a once in a lifetime thing. You have to do it, or you'll be saying you regret it for not having it. And the scariest part for me was the financial piece, because I was financially independent. So leaving that financial independence to stepping out to not having money, to go to a $20,000 internship was really hard. Yes,
Wow.
yeah. So that's why I left. I think that if I would not have gone this route, I probably would still be in doing management or doing whatever at the FBI, um, and I would have just had my career there and retired from there. But I chose to. And then, but you know what? After I left there, I dibbled and dabbed. I went to the VA, and after I left the VA, I was assistant deputy director for this military entity in El Paso. So I did that for a few months too. And that was so far out. It was so far away from my family that I just didn't want to be that far out, right, to do that either. So then I decided to leave that and come back here and work on my own thing. So now I think it's comfortable for me now about doing a private practice because I can kind of make my own schedule and I'm more independent that way, free enough to get what I need to get done for mental health talk. But so leaving the FBI it was a hard decision that I came to. It wasn't just like I just said, okay, I'm done, I'm leaving. It was something I had to do to better my career.
Nice. And so do you miss corporate at all?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And I'm telling you, it's, okay, and if I'm not lying to you guys, I'm really transparent, guys, about everything. And that's what people like about me. That's how I build rapport with my following. I'm really transparent and authentic. The part I miss the most is the financial part. Owning a business and trying to get a business started is like really tough, right? Especially when you're not, you don't have a lot of money, right? When you don't have a lot of money, and it's scary because now you're entering into a space that is new, right? I was a new doctor leaving, and it's difficult to, let me tell you, the faster your business grow and the larger your business grow, the more money you need. Because, and you and I were just talking about this, the more you grow into a direction of success, then the more resources you need. The resources you need to modify resources, right?
Right.
So what I was doing, because I cut corners a lot, guys. I ain't ashamed to say it. I cut corners a lot. A lot of times I was doing a lot for myself. Even for the talk show, I did my own makeup. I did my own editing, did my own website, everything at the time I did. But then it came a point where I was moving so quickly that I had to contract other people in to do things like redo the website and help me in organization and help me with magazine and things of that sort. So, so do I miss corporate? I do. I miss the work. The work was really rewarding. Again, the work made me feel like I was doing a great service for the United States, right, and protecting our country. So that was really meaningful. It's always good when you're in a job that's meaningful for you, right? But what I do now is meaningful, right? I may not make as much money I did working in corporate, but it's meaningful for me, and I'm still potentially saving lives, right? The information that I get out there, can potentially push someone to get treatment. Untreated mental illness can get treatment, right? The information I'm putting out there reduces stigmas in such a way, and that's the goal, to allow people to reduce anxieties around getting treatment, right? To know that they're not going to be stigmatized or not going to be ostracized if they say, I need help, right? And it's about creating awareness. So what I do now is really rewarding and can potentially save lives. So both jobs I really enjoy. So, but sometimes I go back, and during those times, Iris, is when I am struggling financially. I'm like, I shouldn't have left FBI. I shouldn't have left.
Yeah, right. My 9 to 5, all my benefits, everything was all, yeah.
I should go back to the VA. I should go back to corporate in some way, right? But you know what? Things happen for a reason, and I am where I'm supposed to be. This is where I'm supposed to be, and I'm gonna stick with this book, and I'm gonna write it out to the end, girl. This is
and
where I want to be.
I'm so glad to hear you say that. I had so Kat Paulsonelli was on I don't know. Actually, her episode aired 2 weeks ago or last week or something, and she um, was in an 8-year abusive relationship, right? And that's why I said we never know what the beginning of the show is going to be. It's people's journeys, and they're all different. But when we were talking about it, we were talking about how everything happens for a reason, and all of these conversations happen for a reason, and who knows who's listening to this that is gonna that's gonna glean something from this and say, wow, you know maybe they take a look in the mirror and go, wow, I'm one of those people that need that help, or maybe they're at that breaking point and they're like, man, maybe this is what I need. So that's what I love about this platform is, you know, it's for entrepreneurs, but it's for anybody who's listening and whatever journey they're on and however, this can help them. So, I went into it initially to talk about entrepreneurship and blah, 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 but it has turned into this platform that, who knows who I'm reaching and who knows who's in crisis that can hear it. So it
Yeah.
kind of blows my mind the way that the way that it evolved. So, a lot of people that listen are thinking about becoming entrepreneurs. What advice would you give somebody who is thinking about becoming an entrepreneur?
Absolutely. And I had to write this down because there were some points that I did want to hit on. So, yeah. So for me, I think that it's important to write down your vision, right? If you have a vision, if you have goals and aspirations, you have to write it down. A lot of times we think that things aren't achievable or aren't attainable, and they actually are. So write them down. I write down a lot, right? I have an easel board that I bought from Staples, and I write down my goals, and then I just check them off as they're achieved. So make sure you write down your visions and do the homework and due diligence to make sure they're attainable or realistic goals, because you don't want to set yourself up for failure, right? You want to make sure something is attainable because that weighs on your mood, right? Your emotional state. Create a mission statement. Create what your mission statement would be for the goals, right? When let me tell you, I wrote down like 10 goals. I usually start with 10 and then I start crossing things off the board and then I prioritize because you have to prioritize because like you were talking earlier, if you don't, you can become overwhelmed trying to meet everything at once. So create mission statements, operationalize your goals, mean define. Make sure your goals are clearly defined so that when you go to achieve them, people will know what you're talking about, what you're reaching for. Be sure and secure names. You come up with names for your project, make sure you secure them. Somebody told me, make sure you get GoDaddy. So I had GoDaddy faithfully. I was paying for names so that I could have my names. Um, be open to constructive criticism. Make sure, though, guys, it's constructive criticism and not criticism that can demean you or to demean your character or put you,
Right.
because that can really weigh in on your mental state as to whether you believe or not you can be successful, right? And you don't want people in your circle that's going to like be negatively talk to you negatively about your brand or about what you're trying
Right.
to do. You want people to boost you up and be realistic with you, but in such a way that it boosts your self-esteem and confidence to go out and do whatever it is that you want to do. Apply for resources. There's grants and stuff out there. I even applied for a GoFundMe to help. So set your pride aside. And because again, when you're starting a business, financials, unless you are financially stable like that, or have the finances to do so, to put lump sums of money up. Resources out here. Don't be so prideful that you can't re- reach out for resources like grants and things of that sort. And make sure, and I put this down here in double, double, double. make sure you plan double for finances, right? If you do research and something costs, let's say $100, make sure you put $200 in your account and make sure you account. The biggest advice that I can give anyone is cut corners where you can. And what I say is when you're starting a new business, figure out what you can do for yourself first. Get that done. Whatever it is you can do for yourself, get that done, and then hire people as your business begins to grow. Because you can
Mhm.
save a lot of money that way, a lot of anxiety around it. You can, prevent yourself from becoming overwhelmed, and have people in your space that that support you. Support systems are everything. So have people in your space that will
Yep.
support you and will talk to you and allow you to consult with them. And because support systems are everything. So my support systems, my circles are everything to me. And I don't know, I would have given up a long time ago if I did not have my support systems. I've gone to bed several nights crying, wanting to give up. And, my support system, I have to say, are the ones that said, no, do not give up. And that's why I'm here today to tell the story.
Wow, that's awesome. I love how you made a list. So, full transparency, I usually ask, is you have been listening for, a year. We're almost at a year. That's like insane to me. But anyway, I always try to ask 6 questions, but I don't like, you know, asking them in a row. And so, Dr. Leslie, what made you decide to become an entrepreneur? I'd like everything to be very conversational, but I think it's important to get these questions in because I think they're really, good questions. And I think that the answers are so diverse that, each show is different and each
Yeah.
person's perspective is different. So it's pretty awesome. Um, so that was, I like the way that you said double. If something costs 100, make sure you have 200. Because it's true. And then another thing, that you said, you know, you in the beginning we bootstrap because we have to. And then as we grow, we can hire people. And man, I made 2 big ass mistakes, like financial mistakes last year. That cost me a lot of money. Um, I now have a bookkeeper
Yeah.
because that's not going to happen again. It was costly,
Yeah.
and it was just because I'm trying to run the business. I'm trying to pay my contractors, and I paid one contractor, and I thought I paid the other contractor, and I didn't. So
Mm-hmm.
now I was like, oh crap, I got to come up with the money to pay this person, and I always make sure.
You and I both have done it. You and I have talked, and I've made mistakes too. And let me tell you, you're gonna make mistakes.
Yep.
It's not like you're not going to, and it's okay because you know what those mistakes do. You learn from them, and you know
Well,
not
they're
to do
lessons. They're not. If you don't learn their mistakes, if you learn their lessons,
them.
I mean
Exactly.
that's right.
Right.
So,
There's a
um,
lot of modifications you have to do along the way, and that's
yeah,
okay when you start a business. You just have to figure out what modifications are needed and get them done. But there are going to be modifications as because things are constantly changing.
yeah, and I make sure that my people get paid before I do
Hmm.
because at the end of the day, I don't have a business without them.
Right.
So, mine will come. That's kind of how I look
Hmm.
at it. But so there are seasoned entrepreneurs out there that have they're facing obstacles.
Yeah.
So what are some obstacles that you've overcome, and how did you overcome them?
Um. hmm. I had to think about that because obstacles. I think the biggest obstacle for me again is financial peace. And you guys may say, "Oh, she's talking about financial pieces a lot," but remember, I just started a business in 2021, right? So obstacles were, being new to the space. I wasn't the type of person that you guys believe it or not. I don't like being on video. I didn't like seeing myself. I didn't like, and the first thing I started out with mental health talk was a talk show. I joined this women's group, and the founder of the women's group pushed me She gave me a date because I kept setting a date for the talk show, but I kept putting it off because I was just so afraid. And she was like, nope, we're going to stick to this day. And, that day, I went on and I did talk show. My very first talk show, I had the chief of police of Fayetteville, North Carolina on there. I had, it was for Women's History Month last year in 2021. And I had the chief of police, I had the director, deputy director of Homeland Security. I had another deputy director that was retired from FBI, but was with the cruise line, I think Carnival Cruise Line, Royal Caribbean, one of those cruise lines. And I had another lady on there that was the founder of prison. I had the top hitters on there, right? And, because, I was doing things myself, I was on StreamYard, but we did it on Zoom. So many things went wrong that night, and it was so embarrassing. And I remember just emailing everyone and apologizing because I had never used Zoom before to stream. Realized that the damn video didn't even stream.
Oh, no.
I had recorded it. They said they understood, but it was just horrible. So, the errors you make and, so that's why I often talk about finances, because when you cut corners, you have to make sure that you understand what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
Because it creates obstacles that, sometimes, I could have been in a place where they could have just cut me off and that would have been done. And that would have been, because sometimes first impressions are everything, right?
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Yeah, especially when you're in social media and you're considered a public figure, which I don't even consider myself a public figure, but somebody said to me the other day, Dr. Rogers, you're a public figure. And I was like, oh, I am? But so obstacles I had to, overcome was the figuring out how to overcome the financial piece and get the job done without having the finances. Because then you get into situations where you hire companies and you pay a lot of money and they don't do the shit you need. Sorry, excuse my expression.
Oh, please. That's nothing on here. So you're good. My friend Michelle is like, before she listens to it, she's like, can I listen to it at work? And I'll be like, yes or no.
Right. Well, I should say sugar honey iced tea, right? That's what I usually say. The first letters of the word sugar honey iced tea. But when you're financially strapped, is like the way I like to say it. And you cutting corners, you have to be cognizant and aware that mistakes and errors can happen, and then you do things impulsively because you're trying to
say that you're cutting corners, right? Because I think that gives it a negative connotation. I think that you are just being frugal. You're being careful with your money.
Yeah. If you want to spruce it up like that and make it, frugal, I'll take it.
I mean, but it is, because at the end of the day, you're not cutting corners and doing a shitty job.
Right. Oh, absolutely no.
Right. So you're being frugal. You are being careful with your finances so that, and when you're careful with your finances, you have to do things a little differently than you would if you had the finances. So I don't think that's cutting corners. Cutting corners to me is where, you're doing it like half-assed, and you didn't do it half-assed.
Yeah. And other obstacles I had to overcome is, imposter syndrome.
Oh, girl, get in line, because that line is so long.
Yeah, being in a space where, a Black female trying to own a business and be in a space of so many other people, of diverse people, and wanting people to accept me, right? So imposter syndrome is feeling like you don't belong, like you're in a space that you don't belong. And I had to constantly tell myself, I belong here just as much as anyone else, right?
Yep.
And so that's a obstacle that I had to overcome. And sometimes I still experience imposter syndrome. Sometimes I still feel like I'm entering, or I have entered into spaces where I don't belong. And that is what I think the anxiety was behind me being on screen. Talking to people.
Right.
I mean, average people that I have in this magazine are, one guy's an infectious disease doctor. He's way up there, right? I have top hitters writing in this magazine. So being able to be confident in my ability and in my um, uh, space and things that I do, I had to come a long way for that come from low self-esteem to getting my self-esteem to a place where I'm as confident as anyone else, and I
Mhm.
can be a manager, I can do a job, etc. Because I've done it before, right? Again, I was deputy director for clinical services like only a few months back. So being in a space that you're not comfortable with brings a lot of anxieties and can weigh a lot on your self-esteem and your self-confidence as a person, and whether or not people are going to accept me, whether or not people are going to accept my brand, whether or not people are even going to listen to me. I mean, what is she talking about? Is she giving gibberish or um, things of, and I used to be hard on myself because I would say that I don't talk like other people, or I don't use those big words like other people, right? And I remember somebody used to say to me, Leslie, you need to stay on your own carpet. Like, what do you mean by that? Well, you have everybody on their carpets. You need to stay on your own carpet and be you, right? So being me was really difficult, was a challenge that I had to overcome, and people wouldn't know that. But yeah, I wouldn't know it. I wore this mask. A lot of us wear masks. I wore this mask to you all. I would have on a mask, but when I get home and take that mask off, oh, I would scrutinize myself and be
Mhm.
like, what did I do right? What did I do wrong? Did I look right? Did I not look right? Did I say this right? Did I not say that right? But you know what? I have gained so many supporters in doing this. So many doors have opened for me, and my followers have been a blessing in disguise. I mean, they are so supportive of me and my cause. And, I realized that it was me. And that's what I tell many people in a therapeutic environment. Most of the time, it's us. We are the ones that get in the way of our growth.
Oh, every 90% of the time it's us. And
We often project ourselves on other people when we're thinking they're thinking these ways about us. So we need to step back and reflect on what we feel about ourselves. And then
right.
that will increase a lot of
And
anxiety.
you talk about, imposter syndrome, and it's so funny because um, I joined this group called the Dames, and this was after a 3-year partnership that, was a little toxic. I mean, it is what it was. But um, and I don't mean, I mean business partnership. But I remember when I joined this group, and it's a virtual group. There were these heavy hitters in there, and I remember going, "Man, do I belong in this room?" Just like you. And then after about a month, I was like, "Hell yeah, I belong in the room."
Mhm.
I have a lot to give, and my website used to be very corporate. My logo was very corporate. Now, when you go to my website, it's all me, and it took me a minute that when I go to Gasstovecreative.com, my face is on the front of
Yeah,
that, right?
yeah.
But so it took about a couple of weeks, and then I looked at my wife, and I opened up the website and I looked at it and I was like,
Yep.
shit, yeah. I said, you know what? I
Mhm.
am damn proud
Yep.
of that. I am proud of that, of who I am, of how I help people. I have a track record of helping businesses grow, and helping them strategize to get from, where they are to where they want to be.
Yeah.
And I had such a sense of pride, and not the negative, pride, but really being proud of where the hell I've gotten myself to in like less than a year. So in
But
less than a year, last year I tripled my business on my
yeah.
own.
Mhm. But with me, I think the fear factor is I've always been put in spaces like, especially as management, to manage people that are more seasoned than I am, or
Right.
that have been in the field. So that was a imposter syndrome and was frightening. Like for instance, at the FBI, I was put in charge of the 9/11 task force to get people, on board and doing investigations and all that stuff, right? And that was really scary for me, right? And I remember my boss saying, "Hey, I put you in charge. This is what I told you to do," because a lot of people didn't like that. Going forward to the VA, which was very accepting of me, I led an interdisciplinary team, right? Of seasoned medical professionals, psychiatrists, medical providers, and other people that were practicing long before I became a doctor, right? And I was that interdisciplinary team lead at the VA, and they accepted me and they trusted the information that I gave to them, and they supported, my feedback, and they supported, and they came to me for questions and answers, and they trusted me. So in that sense, you have to validate if your thoughts are even true, or if they're real, or if they're rational, because a lot of times our thoughts are irrational, and it gets in the way. So I had to trust myself and trust my own worth, because that's what we don't do. We don't trust our own.
Right. And when we do, it's like such an amazing feeling. I wake up, I used to wake up every day like digging what I do, but now I wake up every day and I love what I do, because, I know I've just, with all the years experience, I've just gotten damn good at what I do. And it's a good feeling knowing that somebody comes to me and I know that I have the skill set that they need to move them up to that next level. So normally I would say what's your differentiator, but honestly, I don't think that applies here, because I think what we really want to talk about, or what we have talked about, is your talk show and the magazine. And I think you're going to be the next Oprah, but that's a whole nother story. And
I hope so.
Girl, there's like so much that you're doing, and it's got to be, marketed in a certain way. And we'll talk about that. But, you're doing an amazing job. I think you're doing an amazing job.
Mm-hmm.
But we're at an hour. I want to thank you so much for taking the time today, especially dealing with all the technical Mercury retrograde crap that happened in the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for taking the time. And everybody, it's mentalhealthtalk.live.
Mm-hmm.
Dr. Leslie has a talk show and mental health magazine, which is just, you can go to the website, mentalhealthtalk.live, and you can click on magazine, and there's like a virtual version of the magazine. So you can like click through it to just get an idea on what it's about. But it's, mental health talk, and it's really cool. And I will have a article in there as soon as I get my shit together and send it in. But, that's like another story. So the last question that I ask everybody is, what lights your fire?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Again, I absolutely love what I do. And, the transitions that I see in therapy and in other spaces and platforms, when people, that light bulb go off and people say, that aha moment, that I've gained something from this. I've gained knowledge from this. I've grown mentally. I am in control. When you see people realize, oh, wow, I am in control. I do have power and control. I mean, that lights my fire. I mean, in this space, I'm telling you, as a provider, and you see growth and maturity in mental health care, and mental illnesses. You see symptom reduction. You see people become empowered and reducing symptoms when they were already empowered. You just, especially when you talk about trauma, you lose power over a course of time.
Yeah.
And the idea is to regain that power and control. That lights my fire, to see recovery. And that's why I love what I do. That's why I entered this space, to being able to just be a witness to recovery around mental illness, and spreading that awareness. Absolutely.
Awesome. That is just so awesome. It literally warms my heart. I mean, seriously, hearing you talk about that. Okay, you hang out. I'm going to say goodbye to everyone, and then I'll be back.
I do have a GoFundMe page, so if you could let.
Oh, okay. What's the GoFundMe page?
It's if anybody wants to contribute to the cause, 100% of the proceeds go directly to Mental Health Talk. I don't touch that. It's Mental Health Talk GoFundMe page. Mental Health Talk GoFundMe page.
Okay, so Mental Health Talk / GoFundMe.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah.
And we'll, Kofi, can we add this to? Well, I'll talk to him off course. We'll add something on there, and in the description of the episode. So cool. Okay, everybody, thank you so much once again for hanging in for an hour plus. I hope you gleaned some good nuggets from my conversation with Dr. Leslie today. Go check out mentalhealthtalk.live. Do the Mental Health Talk GoFundMe. Put some money towards a good cause. You can click on the website. The talk show is on there. The magazine is on there. It's a great cause and a great platform. I want to thank you all for hanging in and supporting this little podcast. Go like, share it, subscribe. When you subscribe, you get notification of a new episode. And I appreciate you all. I love the fact that I'm getting all the comments and the feedback, and it's been good feedback. Thank you. So I really appreciate that. Until next time, go out, find what lights your fire. See you, everyone.